Good morning, and if you've been lacing up your sneakers before breakfast thinking you're doing your body a favor, stop. Just stop right there. Because what I'm about to share with you today completely overturns what most people over 50 have been told about walking, belly fat, and the best time to exercise. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to look at your morning routine in an entirely different way. I'm Dr. William Lee, and I've spent decades studying how the body heals itself through food, movement, and the biology of aging. And today we are going to talk about something deceptively simple, walking on an empty stomach after the age of 50. Does it actually burn more belly fat? Does it hurt your muscles? Does it help or harm your metabolism? The answers are going to surprise you. In fact, number 2 on our list today shocked even me when I first reviewed the research. Now, before we go any further, I want to quickly mention a landmark study published by the Journal of Physiology out of the University of Bath in the United Kingdom. Researchers followed 2 groups of overweight men. One group walked before breakfast, and one group walked after eating. The group that walked in a fasted state burned over 70% more fat during exercise than the group that had eaten first. 70%. Let that sink in. And this wasn't just any fat. It was visceral fat, the deep belly fat that wraps around your organs and drives inflammation, heart disease, and metabolic dysfunction. We're going to get into exactly why this matters so much after 50, and why the rules are different for your body specifically. Before we dive into the full countdown, I want to ask you something personally. How old are you, and have you ever tried walking first thing in the morning before eating anything? Drop your age and your experience in the comments below. I read every single comment on this channel, and your stories genuinely help shape the videos I make. This community is everything to me, so please take 5 seconds and let me know you're here. Now let's get into it. We're counting down from 5 to 1, from the least powerful effect to the most powerful. And by the time we reach number 1, I think you'll understand why fasted walking might be the single most underrated health strategy for men and women over 50. Starting at number 5, what fasted walking does to your inflammation levels, and why this matters more than most doctors tell you. Inflammation is a word you've probably heard a lot, but let me explain what it actually means inside your body after 50. Think of inflammation like a fire alarm that won't turn off. When you're young, your body sets off that alarm to fight infection or heal an injury, and then it quiets down. But after 50, and especially after 60, that alarm starts going off constantly, even when there's no emergency. Scientists call this inflammaging, and it is one of the primary drivers of belly fat accumulation, joint pain, cognitive decline, and cardiovascular disease in older adults. Here is what most people don't know. Eating, especially eating refined carbohydrates or processed foods, triggers an inflammatory response. Every time insulin spikes, inflammatory cytokines, which are essentially chemical messengers of distress, flood your bloodstream. Now, when you walk on an empty stomach, you are exercising before that inflammatory cascade is triggered. Research from the Mayo Clinic and the American College of Sports Medicine has shown that moderate fasted exercise can reduce circulating inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 by as much as 25 to 35% in adults over 55. I had a patient, Margaret, 68 years old, retired school teacher from Knoxville, Tennessee. She came to me with what she called mystery swelling in her knees and hands every morning. Her labs showed elevated inflammatory markers. I suggested she shift her 30-minute daily walk from after dinner to before breakfast, just as an experiment. Within 6 weeks, her CRP levels had dropped by nearly a third. She told me her hands felt like they belonged to a younger woman. Movement on a fasted system, it turns out, is profoundly anti-inflammatory, particularly in the aging body. The practical tip here is simple. Before your morning walk, drink a full glass of water with a small pinch of sea salt to maintain electrolyte balance. Don't drink juice. Don't eat a banana, just water. Keep the walk to a moderate pace. You should be able to hold a conversation. 30 minutes is ideal. And here's the synergy tip. After your walk, break your fast with a meal rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Wild salmon, sardines, or even a tablespoon of flaxseed in your oatmeal. The anti-inflammatory benefits compound significantly when you refuel with the right foods. Moving to number 4, the truth about what fasted walking does to your insulin sensitivity and why this is the hidden reason belly fat keeps coming back after 50. Let me paint you a picture. Insulin is like a key that unlocks your cells so that glucose, sugar from food, can get inside and be used for energy. In a healthy body, this works beautifully. But after years of elevated blood sugar, high carbohydrate diets, and sedentary periods, your cells start to ignore insulin's knock on the door. This is called insulin resistance, and it is epidemic in people over 50. When your cells won't let glucose in, your body panics, floods the bloodstream with more insulin, and the excess glucose gets stored, you guessed it, as belly fat. Here's where fasted walking becomes almost medicinal. When you wake up after a full night of sleep, your blood sugar is at its lowest point of the day. Your glycogen stores, think of glycogen as the fuel your muscles store for quick use, are partially depleted. When you go for a walk in this state, your body has no choice but to pull energy from stored fat. And here is the critical part. Research from the University of Michigan, published in the journal Diabetes Care, found that a single bout of fasted moderate-intensity walking improved insulin sensitivity in pre-diabetic adults over 55 by up to 40%. 40% from one walk. Not a pill, not a supplement. A walk before breakfast. Now, after 60, your body also begins to lose something called metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch easily between burning carbohydrates and burning fat for fuel. It's like having a car that gets stuck in one gear. Fasted walking literally retrains your metabolism to shift gears again, which is why so many of my older patients report that once they start walking before breakfast consistently, they stop having those brutal afternoon energy crashes and brain fog episodes that they thought were just part of getting older. The practical guidance here: aim for a 25 to 40-minute walk at a comfortable but steady pace, 5 mornings per week. If you are on medication for diabetes or blood sugar management, please check with your physician first, because fasted exercise can lower blood glucose significantly and medication adjustments may be needed. For synergy, pair your post-walk meal with cinnamon. Half a teaspoon stirred into oatmeal or yogurt has been shown in studies from the University of California, Davis to further enhance insulin receptor sensitivity, amplifying the work your morning walk already did. Now, if you're finding this information valuable, and I hope you are, this is exactly the moment I want to ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I create these videos specifically for people over 50 who deserve clear, science-backed health guidance, not generic advice designed for 25-year-olds. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and you'll never miss a video. It costs you nothing, and it helps this channel reach the millions of seniors who need to hear this information. Thank you. Now let's get into the top 3, and this is where things get very interesting. Number 3. What fasted walking does to your growth hormone levels, and why this is the anti-aging secret that most doctors forget to mention. Human growth hormone. You may have heard of it as the hormone that bodybuilders try to inject to build muscle. But here's what they don't tell you. Your body produces it naturally, and its role goes far beyond muscle. Growth hormone is fundamentally a repair hormone. It regulates fat metabolism, protects lean muscle mass, strengthens bones, supports brain function, and even helps maintain the health of your blood vessels. The problem is that after the age of 50, growth hormone secretion drops by approximately 14% per decade. By the time you're 70, you may have less than half the growth hormone output you had at 25. Now here's the jaw-dropping part. Research from the Intermountain Medical Center Heart Institute in Utah found that fasting for a short duration, even just the overnight fast you experience while sleeping, elevated growth hormone levels by up to 1,300% in women and 2,000% in men. And when you add exercise to that fasted state before breaking the fast, you extend and amplify that growth hormone surge. You're essentially taking advantage of a natural biological window that your body has already opened for you every single morning. When you eat first and then walk, you slam that window shut. I want to tell you about my patient Gerald, 72 years old, former high school football coach from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Gerald had been watching his muscle mass melt away for 5 years despite still being fairly active. He was walking 30 minutes a day, but always after his eggs and toast. When I explained the growth hormone window to him, he shifted his walk to before breakfast, and we added a brief set of bodyweight squats and arm circles at the midpoint of his walk to further stimulate growth hormone release. After 3 months, his DEXA scan, that's a body composition scan, showed he had gained 1.4 pounds of lean muscle and lost 3.2 pounds of fat. For a 72-year-old man, that is extraordinary. His wife told me he moved like he was 50 again. The practical takeaway here: try adding 2 or 3 short 10-second bursts of slightly faster walking during your fasted morning walk. These brief intensity spikes, you don't need to sprint, just walk briskly enough to feel a little breathless, trigger a secondary wave of growth hormone release on top of what fasting has already initiated. Do this 3 to 4 times during your walk. It costs you nothing and the hormonal return is remarkable. For synergy, in the evening before sleep, not in the morning, consider a small serving of cottage cheese or Greek yogurt. The casein protein provides amino acids overnight that support growth hormone activity while you sleep, priming you beautifully for the next morning's fasted walk. Now we arrive at number 2, and I told you early on that this one surprised even me. This is about what fasted walking does to something called your mitochondrial biogenesis, and why this is quite literally the fountain of youth hiding inside your morning routine. Mitochondria, let me explain this simply. Mitochondria are the tiny power plants inside each of your cells. They take the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and convert them into usable energy. When your mitochondria are healthy and abundant, you feel vital, sharp, and strong. When they are damaged, dysfunctional, or declining in number, which happens naturally after 50, you feel exhausted, your brain feels foggy, your metabolism slows, and fat accumulates far more easily. Here is the astonishing science. Walking in a fasted state activates a specific genetic pathway involving a protein called AMPK. Think of AMPK as a cellular fuel gauge that detects low energy and responds by building new mitochondria. When AMPK is activated, it triggers a process called mitochondrial biogenesis, which is your body literally manufacturing new, healthy power plants inside your cells. A landmark study from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that exercise performed in a fasted state activated AMPK pathways up to 2 to 3 times more powerfully than the same exercise performed in a fed state. Now, here is why this is uniquely critical after 50. Research published in the journal Cell Metabolism has documented that between the ages of 50 and 75, the average person loses roughly 30 to 35% of their mitochondrial density if they are sedentary. 35%. That's like going from a 4-engine airplane to a 2-engine airplane and wondering why everything feels harder. But the research is equally clear. This loss is not inevitable and it is reversible. Fasted exercise, including simply walking before breakfast, is one of the most powerful triggers for mitochondrial regeneration that science has ever discovered, and it is completely free. I worked with a woman named Dorothy, 76 years old, retired nurse from Portland, Oregon. Dorothy came to me saying she was exhausted by noon every day, that her legs felt heavy, and that she had gained nearly 15 pounds in the past 2 years without changing her diet. After a thorough workup, I suspected mitochondrial decline and metabolic slowdown. I recommended she begin a 25-minute fasted walk every morning just around her neighborhood, paired with a specific post-walk nutrition protocol. Within 2 months, Dorothy told me she was going all day without the energy crash. She had lost 8 pounds, and her primary care physician called me personally because her fasting glucose had normalized for the first time in 3 years. Dorothy's story is not unusual. I have seen it dozens of times. The body, even at 76, has an extraordinary capacity to regenerate if you give it the right signal at the right time. The practical guidance: start with 15 minutes if 30 feels too ambitious. 15 minutes of fasted walking is still profoundly effective. The goal is consistency, not heroism. 4 to 5 mornings per week is enough to produce measurable mitochondrial changes within 6 to 8 weeks. Track your energy levels in a simple journal: morning energy, afternoon energy, mental clarity, and I suspect you'll see a pattern emerge within the first month. For synergy, a compound called urolithin A, found naturally when your gut bacteria metabolize pomegranate and certain berries, has been shown in studies from the Amazentis Research Group to directly stimulate mitochondrial quality control. Adding pomegranate arils or a small handful of mixed berries to your post-walk meal creates a powerful synergy with the fasted exercise signal. And now, number 1, the most powerful thing that happens when you walk on an empty stomach after 50. This is the one that ties everything together, and it's the reason I believe fasted morning walking is one of the most important habits a person over 50 can adopt. I am talking about what it does to your visceral fat, specifically the fat that lives deep in your abdomen, around your liver, your pancreas, your kidneys, and your intestines. Let me be very clear about something that most health content glosses over: not all fat is the same. The fat you can pinch on your arm or your thigh, that's subcutaneous fat, and while it's not ideal in excess, it's relatively benign. Visceral fat, the deep belly fat, is an entirely different biological animal. Visceral fat is metabolically active. It secretes hormones, inflammatory compounds, and chemicals that drive insulin resistance, elevate blood pressure, increase clotting risk, and directly feed the development of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and even certain cancers. After 50, particularly after menopause in women and after testosterone decline in men, visceral fat accumulates at an accelerated rate even when total body weight stays the same. This is why so many of my patients say, "I'm not really gaining weight, but my belly keeps growing." They are not imagining it. The composition of where fat is stored shifts dramatically with age. Now, here is why fasted walking is so uniquely targeted at visceral fat specifically. Visceral fat is highly sensitive to adrenaline, the hormone your body releases during fasted exercise. It is far more metabolically responsive to adrenaline than subcutaneous fat is. Think of it like this. If subcutaneous fat is a safe deposit box that requires 3 keys to open, visceral fat is a cash register. It pops open easily in response to the right signal. And the right signal is sustained moderate movement in a fasted low insulin state. A pivotal study conducted at the University of Sydney and published in the Journal of Obesity followed adults between the ages of